Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you once again for joining us in this installment of the weekly webinar presented by Affinity Federal Credit Union. Today's topic is going to be working in a gig economy, adjusting to our new normal. My name is Oscar Cordova, and I'm an external affairs specialist here at Affinity. I'm in charge of the financial education efforts for the credit union in the areas that we serve. Before I begin, I would like to just go over this brief disclaimer. The disclaimer states that the information provided to all of you this afternoon is for information purposes only. It is not intended to be legal, tax, or financial advice. Each person's circumstances are different, and if you need to talk to someone about any of these matters, feel free to reach out, and I'll be more than happy to put you in touch with someone that can help you with a quick conversation about any legal, tax, or financial matters. Let's start with a quick quote that I looked up, and I think it actually resonates with what we're going to be going over today. An opportunity-minded worker actively connects with others, learns new skills, and seeks out new experiences. Now, with the pandemic that hit about 2 years ago, a lot of you may have been affected by getting your hours decreased or being laid off from work, being forced to collect unemployment. And we find that those levels of income, whether you were collecting unemployment, may not have been sufficient for us to keep our styles of living. So a lot of people became very creative in finding new ways to generate income for their families and be able to maintain their style of living. And this is where the gig economy was born. Well, actually, the gig economy has been around for many, many, many years, but it was just it's been around for many, many years, but now that we are in a new normal after the pandemic, we've been able to find new ways to make an income. Now, these new ways that are part of the gig economy are ways that people generate some income, but there are some caveats that we need to be on the lookout for, because now that we're no longer W-2 employees, we may not have the ability to get some of the benefits that a regular company or a regular employer will offer. So we'll go over that through the presentation. So a quick introduction, $1 trillion. So when the pandemic hit about 2 years ago, one of the main recommendations was to slow down the pandemic, the spread of the coronavirus, was for the world to stay at home. As people sheltered in their homes to maintain social distancing, they became affected by the shutdown of businesses. The global economy felt the effects. Although economists cannot predict the real impact in the long run, the United Nations Trade Agency reported that COVID-19 cost the economy over $1 trillion in 2020. So what's the gig economy? While most industries have experienced a decrease in demand and business, an economy little by little now is coming back to normal. But there is one sector of the economy that is seeing both sides of the pandemic effect, which is the gig economy. If you're not familiar with the term, the gig economy is based on flexible, temporarily, or freelance jobs, often involving connecting with clients of customers through an online platform. At its core, for example, we have rideshare drivers kind of like Uber and Lyft, couriers, Instacart shoppers, Airbnb hosts, and others who provide services through mainly app-based platforms. So the pandemic impact for many in the gig industry, businesses and revenues have been negatively affected. For example, Uber announced that in cities most impacted by the COVID in the pandemic, like Seattle, ride volume was down 60 to 70%. And that's totally normal because people were following social distancing recommendations and they were staying home. But for example, and also, for example, Airbnb had been criticized for its decision to grant full refunds. And so they saw the revenue go down drastically. On the other hand, the delivery industry has been booming due to the coronavirus outbreak. And since then, it stayed on pace. Because, for example, people nowadays that are spending more time home, sometimes they don't want to cook and they request Uber Eats or food online to be delivered at home. So these services have seen an increase in their activities. Now, independent contractors. So what is an independent contractor? The gig economy consists of workers that are classified as independent contractors and not as employees. Very important for us to understand that. This means that the workforce lacks the benefits that may be guaranteed with employment, such as sick pay or health insurance, as well as the financial security that come from being employed part-time or full-time, and other benefits such as 401k, which is where you put some money away, start saving it towards retirement. So these issues have been the focus of many workers' rights discussions, and these controversies are coming more to light due to the current global crisis or the nature of the gig economy. So for many gig workers, directly interacting with customers is the main component of their job. Another factor to consider when you're working in this kind of economy are taxes. So many gig workers are surprised to discover that when they participate in the gig economy, they become small businesses in the eyes of the IRS. What might have started kind of like a little way to earn extra money on the side to complement the income that was being received prior. Now it gets a little bit more complicated when you must when tax season comes. In order for you to stay ahead of taxes, in order for you to be able to keep up and not find yourself that you owe Uncle Sam a whole bunch of money at tax season, it is recommended that you start thinking about quarterly estimated tax payments. And that's to avoid getting a huge tax bill at the end of the year in April. So consider making estimated quarterly payments to stay ahead of taxes. Separate your personal finances from your business finances to make easier to recognize what is spent on your gig work when you're ready to make your taxes. Now, one of the things that a lot of people need to realize when they start a new business is that one must segregate the business expenses from your personal expenses. Why do you want to do that? It's because when you do your taxes, you're going to be able to deduct a lot of the expenses that came with the business. So, once you become part of this economy, you want to be able to establish a business relationship with a financial institution, and you want to be able to run every transaction that relates to your business through those accounts. That way, it'll make it easier for you to actually be more organized at tax season, at tax time, and be able to, and you'll be able to know exactly how much was spent in your business compared to your personal. If you have everything in your personal account, it'll be very hard for you to be able to deduct mileage, for example. If you're doing Uber, you can deduct a lot of the depreciation on your vehicle, maintenance. But if everything is in one account, in your personal account, it'll be very difficult for you to find out what was what. Now, reduced work for some, increased work for others. Some gig workers like rideshare drivers, freelance photographers, and handymen have faced reduced work due to social distancing practices. On the other hand, other gig workers like food delivery and online delivery drivers have seen an increase in the demand for the exact same reason. Many are forced to choose between staying home to comply with social distancing measures and not make any money, or working out in the public to be able to pay their bills. So people participate in the gig work because they enjoy the flexibility. They also enjoy the work-life balance and the opportunity to earn extra income without long-term commitment. So remember, when you're in the gig economy, you make your own hours. You're not bound to start at 8 o'clock in the morning and leave at 5, like most of us do when we work in the private sector. When you're in the gig economy, you make your own hours. You can put on 10 hours at one day and 3 hours the next. So it gives you flexibility with, for example, in my case, that I have children, to take one of my children to a doctor's appointment, for example. You have the flexibility of turning yourself on and off as desired. But it is important also that when you work these kind of jobs in the gig industry, you may isolate yourself. So you want to avoid that. It's a very lonely job, just you working. And if you work for Uber, for example, you take people here and there, but there is no interaction. So working gig jobs is a lot like being a firefighter. It's a lot of waiting around, followed by a sudden burst of, this has to get done now. So being a part of the gig economy means that you're not always sure where there'll be work when you want it or need it. It goes with the territory. It can be very stressful. Connect with other freelancers and independent workers. Connect with people in your industry, or form like a gig squad to motivate each other. It's also very recommended. Now, this other bullet point in this slide that I wanted to mention about lack of PPE. So what's PPE? PPE means personal preventing gear. So another issue that many companies is that many companies aren't providing their gig workers with preventing gear like hand sanitizers, like gloves, face masks while on the job. So additionally, the gig workers, as yourselves, may simply not have the funds to buy this, or you guys may need to invest a little bit in you to be able to be safe around other people. Remember, all of these expenses, once you do them and you have the proper business account established, you will be able to deduct those as your tax during your tax season as expenses that you had to incur in order to be in business. All right, so changes in the industry, media exposure. Since the demand for home delivery has increased due to people who are in isolation or people that are like not currently working and they're at home, the vulnerability of gig work is now thrust in the spotlight. With new news outlets reporting on the matter of all over the world, it's possible that all industries in the gig economy, and not just delivery services, will see changes to consumer behavior and labor relations. Be ready for these changes. For certain gigs, such as being a photographer or resume writing, you can order some inexpensive business cards, or you may want to market yourself online through Facebook or through different social media platforms. And this is going to provide you the flexibility as the landscape changes. Create a professional invoicing template to bill clients, and this will make it easier for you to get paid and track your invoices. Develop an elevator pitch, which is a 60-second or less explanation of your skills, to be able to repeat when people ask you what is it that you do, and be able to expand your client base. When you're in business, networking is very important because you don't know when your next big client may come from. So it's always good to have this elevator pitch explanation of what you do in order to grow your network, grow your client base. Now, emergency measures adoptions. So many companies are adopting emergency measures such as Uber and Lyft to protect their gig workers. Efforts include establishing funds to support independent contractors who are affected and need assistance. Another benefit that they're coming up with is providing 14 days pay for those diagnosed with COVID-19 when you need to be isolated or you need to be in quarantine, right? And lastly, they're enabling contactless delivery options. Some are also asking the government to provide more substantive financial aid for their independent workforce. As you guys may know, a couple of years back, and throughout the Trump and early Biden administration, there were some payments made by the government, in order to assist the populace that was struggling. So hopefully you guys were able to take advantage of many of these payments. You were able to save some of these funds that were provided, and hopefully that can help you towards your gig business. All right, so also another change in the industry is we want to be able to protect gig workers. So we cannot know for sure what has been the true impact in the pandemic, because many people have been affected in many different ways. But as consumers, we can take precaution to help these workers, okay? For example, many apps are offering the option of contactless delivery upon request and cashless payments to avoid the exchange of money and the exchange of germs through money, right? So next time you order anything online or through a mobile app, remember to opt for those options if they're available, okay? Also, see if you can take services that you normally have in person online. For example, if you take, and that's me, I take guitar lessons. So instead of having my teacher, he used to always come to my house and give me classes there. And even though now things are opening up a little more and we're going back to a certain normalcy, I have requested my classes to be virtual. So this is another way that a lot of people can think about these workers, think about these freelancers and these people working in the gig economy, to help them avoid contact and avoid exposure to COVID. Lastly, since the demand of home delivery has increased due to people who are in isolation, the vulnerability of gig workers is now thrust in the spotlight. All right, so we want to make sure that we choose those options, such as you can leave my food on the doorstep, and that's fine. Lastly, you want to be able, as a gig worker, you want to be able to develop and maintain a budget. And when I teach my budgeting basics class, I usually go over the importance of having a budget. And not only that, having an emergency fund. because as you guys know, things may happen and we might find ourselves in a tight situation. So as a gig worker, it is crucial that you maintain and develop a budget, and not only for an emergency fund, but for everything, because of the fact that your source of income may be very not constant, maybe very vulnerable. So when you create a budget, is going to give you better control of your finances as you go, because say 1 week you may earn $1,000, but then the next week you may earn 500, and that becomes with the territory and depending on what you do. So you want to be able to plan your month and be able to have enough money to pay all of your bills, pay your rent, pay your food, and on top of that, save a little bit towards your financial goals and towards your emergency fund. Remember to consider any expenses you incur related to your work, like gas, protective gear, and meals. The net total you earn in a day or a week should be taken into consideration so you have a realistic budget. So it's not just saying, oh, I want to earn this week $1,000 and that's that. You have to account for your little expenses that you have to incur on a daily basis in order for you to come up with your net home, your net pay, right? And be able to work with your budget that way. Also, you want to try to avoid working for free. This includes doing any unpaid project as for a potential client to see if it's a good fit. Submitting a bunch of project ideas or pitches to see if you understand the nature of the work. When you complete a project for free in exchange for exposure, it may be detrimental because you are putting time, you put in your efforts, you put in your expertise to complete this project, and you're not getting paid at all. So agreeing to collect a payment for a project only, is going to be the best course of action. Your time and your skills need to be compensated somehow. So try to avoid working for free just as a kind of like a good faith or as a measure to be recognized. Okay. And lastly, if you have earned your client's business, don't be afraid to ask for referrals. And I learned that a long time ago when I was doing business development for another financial institution. If you have done a great job, let's say you are resume writing or you're a photographer and you've completed a project, you've presented all the findings and you finished it and the client was very happy with your work, there is nothing wrong with you asking for a referral. And some people may say, you know what, people may tell you, you know what, thank you so much, this is a great job. How can I pay you? Well, you can pay me with what we have agreed, but another way for you to pay me is for you to let your family and friends know of my quality and my job skills. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's actually, if you've created a good relationship with this client, I'm sure that the person will be more than happy to recommend your services to somebody else. With that said, this concludes my presentation on the gig economy. I hope it was informative to all of you. I don't know if there's any questions out there or if you guys want to ask one. I'll be more than happy to answer it the best way I can. And if I don't know the answer, I'll be more than happy to research the answer for you and get back to you. While you guys type those questions, I just want to remind everybody that this webinar is being recorded. And this evening, you guys will receive a follow-up email thanking you for attending with the link to the recording so that you guys can watch the recording after the fact with friends and family. So with that said, let me just take a look at the Q&A if there's any questions out there. I don't see any questions popping up. I'll give you guys another, I don't know, 5 to 10 seconds to finish up any questions that you guys may have. Also, if you guys have questions that you guys may think about in the future, but the webinar is done, you guys are more than welcome to email me those questions and I can respond that way. All right, let me take a look. All right, I don't see any questions at the moment. So at this point, I would like to bring this webinar to a close. I want to thank everybody for attending. Also, in the follow-up email, you guys will find a link to register for next week's weekly webinar. So I hope to see all of you there. And thank you so much for your time and for your attendance. I wish you guys a very good afternoon and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.